This is a Rogue Media Network podcast. Hey, I'm Mike. Nice to meet you guys. Thank you for coming out. We really appreciate it. These ladies have, how long have you been doing the show now?
Almost 4 years.
God.
Almost 4
Way
years.
too long.
Who's listened from episode 1? Yeah, you got one.
Doubt
That's great.
Doubt it.
We did it. Anyway, I appreciate everybody coming here. Remember, our wonderful host, Southern Roots. Please buy pizza, buy beer. Treat them very well. They treat us very well. So thank you again for being here, and thank you, Southern Roots. I guess that's it, huh?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Bloody Happy Hour.
Play the song.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
It's sped up.
Hey, y'all, I'm April.
And I'm Caroline.
And this
is your Bloody Happy Hour.
There we go. Caroline, are you ready for this? This is your newest guilty pleasure. It's the bloodiest part of your week.
Did you say something about it also being happy hour?
Show did.
Because we about to be sipping on some murder. Bloody Happy Hour.
All right, y'all.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Another live show. Oh my God. Another live show.
All
But-
right, y'all.
Too bad we're just the opening, but that's fine.
It's okay.
It's okay.
I am April.
And I'm Caroline.
And we are called Bloody Happy Hour. And like Mike said, we have been around for 4 years. We're about to record almost our 200th episode.
We are geriatric.
We're
We are
real old.
geriatric.
But we're really here for Miss Claire Saint Amant. She's the famous person tonight, and we are opening for her. So basically, you could call us the lube. I think
We
we're
are
the
basically
lube.
the lube to
We're
get you ready to
getting
go.
y'all all ready and lubed up and ready to go
Oh my
for
God.
Claire's True Crime tonight. And if you don't know, our podcast is a little rated R. Sorry if Claire did not tell y'all that. Surprise!
You get what you get, and you don't throw a fit.
You don't throw a fit. Get in where you fit in. So, Claire is surprising you guys tonight with a Waco town murder. So we decided to hop on that bandwagon
Facts.
and also cover a Waco town murder. But Caroline, tell them about our podcast, just in case they wanted to tune in.
Have you ever heard of a Baylor basketball player situation, murder, controversy, Patrick Dennehy, Carlton Dodson, anything?
Ish, yeah.
Okay, because that's what we're going to talk about, okay?
We are, and we're going to jump right into it.
Okay, so let's meet Patrick Dennehy, okay? So he was born in California, and he was 6'3", 210 pounds. He was a forward. He was a college, university at, like, New Mexico player, and he was like a baller, okay? So he had this great record. He was scoring like 404 points. He had 330. I mean, I know all of his stats because I've been studying him, okay? 363 rebounds, played in 63 games. He was basically like the thing. And, you know, he kind of got in hot water with his teammates and his coaches. And they were like, well, we're going to go ahead and kick you off the team because, no, you're not doing it for us. And so all of a sudden he just, you know, didn't have much of an impact on that team. So then Baylor University just hopped on him, and they were like, okay, well, we like you because you have good stats.
And this is before the transfer portal. Like, they just had to send a letter or something back then. How did they?
I don't know because I don't know about that transfer portal, but you know all about that transfer portal. That was not what that had said, but he was officially rostered. He got a spot on Baylor University's team, and apparently he had to, like, did he have to sit out for a year?
He had to sit out
because he had to sit out for a year.
If you go from a D1 to a D1, you got to, like, sit out for a year.
Yeah. So he's, like, 21 years old. He had to sit out for a year, and he's, like, ready to play, and it's, like, 2003, 2004 season, and he's ready to go. Baylor was, like, they were trying to win a championship, but the team was like getting full of transfers and stuff, and then they got this new coach. They had Coach Dave Bliss.
Oh,
so now we have Dave Bliss coming in, and I went to high school with his son, so that means nothing to the story, but I just want to tell you all that. Okay, so he came in 1999. So Baylor has, they're pretty terrible at this point, right? And
all across every sport.
They were basically 0-16.
0-16.
That's a conference. That means 0 wins and 16 losses.
0-24, actually.
Well, if you want to go by your stats, then that's fine. But I'm going to go by my stats as 0-16. And it was just Baylor Nation. They were like, okay, we got to do something about it, and we got to fill these seats. So guess what? We're gonna bring in this guy named Carlton Dodson. Okay. Anybody heard of Carlton Dodson? Yeah. Well, we met him a couple weeks ago. Anyway, we'll tell you about that later. So he transferred at the same time Patrick Dennehy, and so all the transfer rules, Dodson was not required to sit out a year.
He came from JUCO.
And then he came and he played 28 straight games. He averaged 16 minutes a game. And so they were like, okay, those are some good stats. It's okay. So it's like 2003, JUCO transfer. He's making his way into Baylor. And
this is a new guy.
Coach Bliss is like, okay.
No, now there's a new JUCO transfer named Harvey Thomas.
And Coach Bliss thought Harvey Thomas was this like missing piece, and told Carlton Dodson, okay, I guess maybe that the playing time is going to decrease from one of you into the other. Which one's going to get the more playing time?
Yeah.
Uh-oh, it done messed up.
Yeah, so Carlton Dodson's playing time was not as good the year that he was there. So this Harvey Thomas guy was going to come in, and he was going to be this missing link. And so they had to compete for this position, all right? So now Carlton, him and his wife are splitting up. And Carlton and Dennehy are now getting married. Dennehy are getting married, are now about to live together. And they're becoming good friends. So Patrick and Dodson are now about to live together, and they're becoming good friends. And they decide they want a dog. And so Dodson answers this ad from a local breeder, and they decide to go get some pit bulls. So they go near Baylor campus, and this family that breeds these pit bulls live near a gravel pit, and they make friends with this family. And they adopt these pit bulls, and so now they're decent roommates. Harvey Thomas is in town, and when he comes into town, he also brings his sketchy cousin named Larry Johnson. Say the name, Larry Johnson.
Larry Johnson.
Larry effing Johnson. Now, okay, so when they get into town, things are not right. It's early, June 6th, and Carlton and Patrick start to tell their friends that they're not feeling safe. Patrick's telling his girlfriend, he tells his roommate, he tells his best friend back at home that this new teammate, Harvey Thomas, has stolen their money from their apartment, and he has threatened them with guns, that they do not feel safe. They feel so unsafe that they go buy guns the next day, okay? And they also go out to the breeder's house, and they go practice shooting these guns out at these breeders' house. Is this ringing a bell to you guys?
It seems a little suspicious to me.
Yes, they're like shooting at these cans, they're shooting at these glasses because they feel so threatened. Now it's June 9th, and they decide we need to go tell our coaches that this new player makes us a little scared. We're a little scared. So they go tell Coach Bliss, and they tell assistant coach Abar Roos,
Oh, poor Abar Roos.
Yeah.
He got thrown under the bus.
They're telling Abar Roos, they're like, hey, we feel really scared. We got Cousin, we got Harvey Thomas, they got these guns, they done stole our money, they done broke into my car. You might need to send them back. Go and send them back home. Should we call the police, coach? And coaches are like, no, we will handle this in-house. Now, if you ask the coaches now till this day, they will say that Patrick nor Dotson never ever reported any threats, okay? It's June 12th, and this is the last time that Patrick Dennehy was ever seen. And people are concerned because Abar Roos, which is that assistant coach, his job is to make sure athletes go to class. Well, he checks on Dennehy in class on the 13th, and he's not in class. He goes to Dennehy's apartment, and his car is not there. 2 days later, it's Father's Day, and Dennehy did not call his dad on Father's Day. That sounds like a red flag because he's so close with his father, right? His stepdad. And then girlfriend decides to call Carlton Dodson. It's his roommate. Roommate, have you seen Patrick? And Carlton is back at home in Maryland. And Carlton in Maryland.
What?
Yeah.
Why is he in Maryland?
He just goes home for Father's Day maybe, but I don't think he has a daddy, so maybe he just goes home.
Okay. Just curious.
So Carlton's like, I just figured Patrick was on campus. I hadn't heard from him. Maybe he'll turn up.
Okay, maybe he will.
So finally, Patrick's stepdad is like, you know what? I'm going to call Coach Dave Bliss. As a matter of fact, Dave Bliss, you told me when you recruited my son, you were going to keep an eye out on my son.
What a good guy.
That's what we do.
That's
you
what we
trust
do.
your kids.
Yes.
When they recruit your kids, you
Yes.
trust them with these coaches.
Absolutely.
So Dave Bliss was like, you know what? He's around. Don't worry about it. He's fine. He's fine.
It's fine.
Well, he was not fine.
Oh, he was not fine.
Third roommate comes home. They have a third roommate. His name is Chris Turk. And he had been out of town for like a week. When Chris Turk comes home, there is dog poop, dog pee, and the dogs are like starving and thirsting to death. Is there such thing as thirsting to death?
There is such a thing.
They are thirsting to death and they are starving to death because nobody has been there to feed them. Not Carlton, not Patrick.
Where are they?
They gone.
Oh, they gone.
They are gone.
Oh, no.
So
They
now
gone.
Chris is extra worried, girlfriend's worried, daddy's worried, and dad is like, I'm calling the popo.
As you should.
And June 19th, this is 7 days later, he files a missing persons report. And this is when shit hits the fan. Because, small town Waco back then, we love a good scandal, and especially if it's on Baylor's campus, because all we know is that there's a missing Baylor basketball player. Larry King's got it. The early show's got it. It's all over the local news.
Oh, did Nancy Grace get it?
Oh, she's going to get it.
For sure she got it.
You know Nancy's going to get
Yeah,
it.
she on it.
Coach Bliss then is doing an interview, and they ask Coach Bliss, did you know about these threats?
Oh, my God.
That one of your other players has made threats towards Patrick and Carlton?
Surely not.
Never,
No,
ever has
ever.
he ever heard of any threats. And they ask Harvey, do you have any guns? Did you ever
Guns?
threaten your teammates? And
what's a gun?
Harvey said never. So it's now July 17th, and Carlton goes to Delaware and he meets with the police. And he is being questioned about his roommate because his roommate is missing. And this questioning goes very smoothly. Carlton walks out free.
Wow.
The next day, a gun is found in the apartment complex of Harvey Thomas.
Oh.
So imagine us back in Waco in 2003, and there's a missing Baylor basketball player. We know Harvey Thomas has been making threats, and now a gun is found in Harvey Thomas's apartment complex. What do we think? Harvey Thomas has obviously done something to Patrick Dennehy, right?
Yes.
Well, it's not what happens,
No.
obviously.
So, police begin their search for Patrick on June 25th, 2 weeks after he was last seen. Okay. Patrick's vehicle was found, guess where? In a mall parking lot in Virginia Beach?
What?
Over 1,000 miles away from Waco?
Why so far?
Oh my gosh. Patrick's vehicle was found in a mall parking lot, and it's Virginia Beach. It's clean, no license plates. There was, like, as a way to conceal, obviously. And it just seems pretty obvious that that's what they're trying to do. And so now police are trying to figure out, how did this vehicle get there? So 2 days later, the police released a statement saying that potential suspects, you know, in this missing persons case, including Patrick's teammates, in relation to this statement, among other aspects, they're like, okay, we have to have an investigation in St. Petersburg, Florida, which is where they had this attorney from, like, who is known to represent athletes. And he all of a sudden was hired by Patrick, or by Carlton Dotson. So this attorney who was hired by Dotson is at his home in Maryland, and he's like, no, I will not discuss the case.
So all of a sudden, Carlton has a lawyer. When we've been looking at Carlton as a victim, right? You've been threatened, Carlton. You've been threatened, but now you've lawyered up. So now it's just switched. And why is this truck found so close to your home, Carlton?
I mean, I wonder why. So then, like, this brings us to July 21st. Carlton Dotson calls 911. He tells the police that he wants to make a statement. He wants to talk to the FBI, and he wants to turn himself in, and he wants to, like, make a statement and talk to them. And all of a sudden, this leads to his arrest. But he's in Maryland. Mm-hmm. And so now he's charged with the murder of Patrick Dennehy. So this is when police realize that there's something that seems off with this Dotson guy. And so during the interview, Carlton Dotson goes on these rants about religion and how he's, like, already been forgiven for his sins. There's no details about where Patrick is, and he comes off very unstable, and he's just like, the police are starting to become very concerned about his mental health, because he's just, like, prophesizing, and he's saying there's monsters, that they're after me, and it's unexplainable, and people are trying to take me out, and my faith is so strong, and I've been taken over by a higher power. And he starts laughing, and he's like, hee 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 hee, like, it's, like, weird.
I mean, that's a family of prophets.
Yeah, he's from a family of prophets. And then the FBI is like, oh, okay, do you believe that you're a prophet? And he was like, oh, I'm much more than a prophet. Like, what? So he thinks that he's a prophet. So then now we're thinking like he has, like, this mental, like, he's, like, a mental issue. So he goes on to talk about repenting, and he said he's already been forgiven, and that he may have committed these things, and he tells police that he's been hearing voices, and he's been afraid for his life, and that there's reports that he's saying that people have wanted to kill him, and because he's Jesus. Okay?
The Son of God.
He's the Son of God. Okay? And at this point, police are, like, really confused, because they're like, Carlton, is there, like, what, like, are you turning yourself in? Like, what, like, where's Patrick? Can you tell us anything about Patrick? Police are encouraging him to tell him what's going on. Like, this is a safe space, and, like, we'll protect you, and all the things. And then finally, Carlton Dotson opens up, and he's like, hey, you know, Patrick and I, we were new gun owners, and Patrick pulled a gun on me, and, you know, pulled the trigger, but the trigger didn't fire. And at that point, like, I was in self-defense, and I was like, God, forgive me for what I'm about to do. But he said he shot it twice, and it shot him in the head. And
And he left him there.
He just left him there because he just didn't know what else to do. And so he left him at the scene, and then Patrick Dennehy's Tahoe.
He drove off in his Tahoe.
And then he changed his clothes, took him all the way to Maryland, threw the clothes in the dumpster.
Drove to Dallas, got rid of the guns, and then drove to Maryland. And that is where he wiped down the vehicle clean, like Jeannie's car wash. Took the tags off and drove it to Virginia Beach. That seemed logical. So first you were Jesus, Son of God. Then you were very logical, and you wiped down the vehicle, and you drove to Dallas, disposed of your clothes, wiped it down, and then drove to Virginia Beach, and then told your uncle to come pick you up.
I mean,
to
if
take you
I
to
was
Maryland.
innocent, I don't think I would wipe down my car and dispose of things.
Or if it was self-defense, you would have called the police
yeah.
out there. Like
Yeah,
he
you're
was
right.
saying, they were
Self-defense.
shooting,
Mm-hmm.
and Patrick turned the gun on him, and it misfired. So in self-defense, he shot Patrick twice.
Yeah, and then you go wipe down your car.
And then you change your clothes and throw them in the dumpster and wipe down your car.
That's, normal stuff.
So,
It's facts.
what happened next?
Okay, well, the following day, Dotson's his wife came forward. Estranged wife. Did we know he had a wife?
Yes.
Okay, well, she came forward and she was like, they actually split up, and she witnessed Carlton taking a fake drug test, and that he was receiving cash from the coaches, and that he had been hearing voices and visions, and that he had accused her of having an affair with other players on the team. So he had been extremely paranoid. Okay, so that's why he did all this, because he was paranoid because of all the things this girlfriend was doing.
So she's kind of co-signing that he had been going a little bit crazy before. The mom had said he had been hearing voices. Wife said that's why they split up. He had been going crazy. He had been hearing voices.
She calls mom. She's like, Mom, they're hearing voices. Mom calls coaches. Coaches are asking him for help. Coaches eventually set him up with a therapist. And then he goes and he's just like, oh, I'm going to go to therapy. But then he eventually quits therapy.
Yeah, not very consistent.
No, he's not very. And then on June 12th, last seen, July 25th.
His body's found on July 25th. So authorities arrive at the gravel pits near Waco, where they find a body that is so badly decomposed that they had to only can match it with dental records, and they confirm that it's Patrick Dennehy's body. So then here's a plot twist, right? Wife just said that Patrick Dennehy was like taking these weird drug tests, okay? That Carlton was. Now Patrick's girlfriend decides to come and self-report herself, because she's an athlete at Baylor, but also Patrick Dennehy's NCAA violations. And she's coming forward and she's saying, you know what? Patrick and I have received payments from coaches. Coaches paid for Patrick's Tahoe. She says that she was with Patrick when Coach Bliss bought him his Tahoe. He put a $2,000 down payment. In addition, everybody thought Patrick was on scholarship, but no. Dave Bliss and all the boosters were paying for his tuition at Baylor, his living expenses, and for his car. And now that's normal. Back then, total NCAA violations. So now what's so sad, the attention turns from Patrick Dennehy's death to, oh hell, Baylor's crooked again, right? Like, let's put Baylor through the ringer. So what this hell is going on with Baylor basketball program, and now we get a good old glimpse of Coach Dave Bliss. And we know that he's violated NCAA rules, and he's got two choices. He can either come forward and confess his little Baptist sins, right? Like a good Baptist should do. Or he is going to figure out how to cover it up and maybe blame the victim. Which one do you think he does? B.
Or he could blame his assistant coach.
So
is what he did.
Dave decides to make up these lies about Patrick. So the player that he recruited and he promised the parents that he would take care of, he decides to tell the players to say that, you know, they saw Patrick with lots and lots of cash, that he was running hoes and pimping hoes and running drugs, right? He was a drug dealer and he had all these women. And they wanted to make sure that eyewitnesses saw him with all these monies and all these drugs. Because basically, if people saw him with money, then Dave didn't pay for his tuition, right? That would put him in the clear. But Coach Abar Roos, we're just going to call him Hero Abar from now on. He was Hero Abar.
Poor Abar.
He just knew this was his dream job, by the way. He played for Baylor basketball. His dream was to coach Baylor basketball. He had just got this job. He knew that this was wrong. So he decides to put on his hero cape. He literally goes to Radio Shack and he buys a recorder and he puts it in his pocket and he wires himself up.
He does.
And he goes to these coaches' meetings and these practices, and he is recording Dave Bliss. And conversation after conversation. And why Bliss is formulating his plan, saying, quote, "There's nobody right now that can say that we paid Patrick. The only person that can say it is dead. So what we have to do is create a reasonable doubt." Then he tries to convince players to go along with these lies, to the point to where he is like rehearsing these players. Rehearse what you're going to say. You say this, and then you say this. You say this, and you say this. Tell them now that you saw a wad of $100 bills coming out. Like, it's just pitiful. So by day 3 of recording, Bliss calls in a meeting, and now he has a recorder, and he's like, "Player so-and-so, why don't you record yourself, play it back, listen to it, and then see if you have any inconsistencies in your story." Like, he is just being very, very official. Like, he wants them to lie really, really, really good in front of this investigation committee. So the committee comes in, and they meet with the players, and they meet with the coaches, but they don't even have to interview because all they have to say is, "Coach Bliss, run me those bank statements." And so when Coach Bliss hears that, all he has to do is say, "Sorry, I did it." So then here's a press conference, and he says, "Yep, I'm sorry, I paid the $2,000. We paid for the tuition. I did all the things." And all the tapes go public, and his name is run through the mud. And so then he goes dormant for a little while. And then I don't know if you've seen the Disgraced documentary. If you haven't, go home and watch it.
HBO?
We've seen it.
It's Showtime. So they filmed this documentary 2017-ish maybe. There's an interview, and they act like they stopped recording. So he thinks he's not being recorded. Even at the end of this interview, he is still accusing Patrick of selling drugs. His quote was, "He is running rampant selling drugs all over the campus, but the police didn't care because they were so focused on hanging me." So where he apologized to everybody else's face and to the family's face, behind the scenes, he was still trying to paint Patrick, his dead player, to be a criminal. It's horrible.
So Baylor ends up getting on probation. They were limited like 7 scholarships for 2 years, and they imposed like this postseason ban for a year. and then NCAA punished them for like initiating non-conference ban. They had all these punishments. They couldn't recruit. They were limited on their recruiting, and then they had a 10-year show cause penalty.
Coach Bliss.
Yeah.
Coach Bliss could not do anything.
He
for
couldn't
10
do anything
years.
because of his despicable behavior.
Yes.
And
unethical conduct. So he could not coach for a year.
But it's
But
okay
then that
because then
next
it's
year-
okay because he was hired for
Year freaking 10. He got
It's okay
hired
'cause he
by
was hired again.
Southwestern Christian University.
The good money that came in.
But let me tell you, the poor guy, Coach Abar, who was like the one who was like all in
Hero
it.
Abar.
He was the hero, and he never coached again. He was blackballed because he snitched, and snitches get stitches, and they end up in ditches. I guess I don't know, but yeah, he snitched, and he ended up as a teacher recruiter for a specialist correction facility in Texas. Like, oh, blah 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 blah. Like, it was really sad.
And on that documentary, Coach Abar did say that he still thinks it's sketchy that on the day that Patrick went missing, Coach Bliss gave him a bus ticket, and he said, get Larry Johnson, sketchy cousin, put him on a one-way ticket out of town, and make sure you watch him and put him on that bus. So sketchy cousin that did all the threats, make sure he leaves town on the day Patrick goes missing. So a lot of people still kind of think that Harvey and crazy cousin still could maybe have something to do with this. Now, what happened to Dotson?
Okay, but in 2004, Dotson was declared incompetent to stand trial, and he was sent to a mental hospital and to be reevaluated for 4 months, 3 psychiatrists. Yeah, he appeared.
Who were the lawyers?
He appeared to be suffering from hallucinations and psychosis, and
Abel Reyna and Russ Hunt.
And then, but they were like, okay, he can regain competency and he can stand trial in the future. But February 2005, he returned to jail after psychologists deemed him to be competent to stand trial, but that he must continue taking his antipsychotic medications. So the psychologists were like, okay, his accounts of hallucinations and hearing voices were a little suspect.
So you had 3 that said he was totally crazy, but 1 said, suspect. So they took the 1 and said, he should go to jail. Like, he's not crazy. We're going to listen to this 1 and send him to jail. So he did not have a trial. What happened?
Because prosecutors and Dotson's defense team, Abel Reyna and Russ Hunt, they did not agree on the terms of plea agreement, which we just said, and they started battling. And then on June 8th, 2005, a few days before his murder trial, he unexpectedly pled guilty to killing Patrick Dennehy without a deal. So there was no trial they had to go through, so it keeps the Baylor basketball team from getting dragged through the mud, and then he gets sentenced to 35 years and signs of something immediately that, like, he wouldn't have.
Can never
He
appeal.
can't appeal a sentence.
Ever.
But then a few days later, he regrets signing this non-appeal because he didn't really know that he didn't really know what he did. He didn't really
he was
know
crazy. He thought it was Jesus.
because he's Jesus.
He
So
thought
he
he
didn't
was
know
Jesus.
what he did. So he just signed this appeal, and he did not know. And now he's like, oh, shoot, I lost my rights. I can't get a lawyer.
So on June 15, 2005, Dotson was sentenced to 35 years in prison. He was denied parole in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. But in March of 2024, the other day, he was granted parole to Austin, Texas, where he was in a halfway house. And then in March 2025, he was transferred to a quarterhouse where he was still on parole. This quarterhouse is located in, guess where?
Where is it?
Waco, Texas.
Oh, and then And guess what?
Wednesday, March 12th,
Oh my gosh.
Caroline and I got an inside scoop that Carlton would be arriving by Greyhounds downtown Waco at 8:20 p.m. So guess what we did?
We went to the bus station.
We did a little impromptu road trip.
Okay, and we're gonna play it for you right now.
We're not connected. You won't be able to hear it. But here's what we found out. You can find us afterwards and we'll let you see pictures. But here's what we found out. Because the bus was going and it's very sketchy. We found out. No. Here's what we found out. He was like talking to like an 8-year-old kid with an intellectual disability.
That's a picture.
Yeah. He is kind of unaware really of what really is going on.
He just really seemed like
It was really, really sad. He was almost in tears as he was talking to us. We asked him if he was if he was excited to be back in Waco, and he like genuinely was. Like he wasn't really putting together that he probably shouldn't be here, and he probably should not be here. We asked him if he watched basketball still, and he did, and he watched Baylor basketball games.
He said he really loved Waco and he wanted to stay here.
Yeah. He's still in touch with his family, and right now he's trying to get the okay to go to Maryland to go live with his grandma, because that's who raised him.
He said he wanted to stay here and he wants to go to Whataburger.
We got about 10 of them.
Well, that's all the time we got, folks.
Yeah, that's what we got.
More to come. So where did he end up staying?
He's at a quarter house.
He
at a quarter house.
He in my spare bedroom. It's all right.
Hey, let's hear it for him one more time, please. Very nice job, ladies.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.